10 o'clock. Thank you. Let's begin with the pledge. The flag is on the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The minutes of the September 14th, 2021 meeting are on pages 1 to 2 of the handout. Do I have any questions, contributions, any other consideration? If not, do I have a motion?
This is Mark Odell. I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
Mark Odell makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. George Topel seconds. Any other discussion? Anybody? Nope. If so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone again? So moved. Kathy, I'm gonna just take this a little out of sequence. Is Kathy Luther on now? She's not on yet. I'll go ahead and go to public comment on agenda items. Do we have any public comment on the agenda items?
Kevin, this is Meredith. I don't have a public comment, but do we need a roll call vote for the approval of the minutes?
I suppose it won't hurt. We'll kill some time.
Okay.
Flor, do you have the list?
I do. Mary Tanis. Kevin Britsky.
Yes.
Thank you. Justin Keel. George Topel.
Yes.
Thank you. Mark Odell.
Yes.
Thank you. Tom Dermody. Jerome Prince. Dean Button. Bill Carroll. Jocelyn Denham. Lori Mercer. Matt Murphy or Mike Jabo. David Wright. Beth Schrader. Beth West.
Yes.
Thank you. Robin Barzoni Tillman.
Yes.
Thank you.
That face.
Kelly Wenger.
Yes.
Thank you. Kay Nelson. Or Heather Ennis. All right. That's a total of 6, and that concludes roll call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope.
And we don't have Kathy Luther yet, so we'll just move on with the planning. The resolution 2119, adopting safety performance measure targets for 2022.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Webb.
yes, I'll take this one. Resolution 21-19 on pages 3 to 5 of your agenda packets is about the safety performance measure targets that INDOT has adopted statewide. And this resolution is in support of those safety performance measure targets. Specifically, it would have to make some technical changes as a technical amendment to our planning documents, our NWI 2050 plan, as well as our fiscal year 2022 to 2026 transportation improvement program, as you can see on the tables on page 5 that show exactly what those technical changes that would be made in order to support these safety performance measure targets. So every year, INDOT sets statewide safety performance measure targets, and NERC has 180 days to decide whether we support those state targets or decide to set our own. In this case, we decided to adopt the statewide performance measure targets for safety, and these tables show how that would be done. We actually scale the numbers to our region. So for example, in 2021, the performance measure target for number of fatalities as you can see, is 817.3. That actually got raised, unfortunately, to 876.0. For the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled in 2021, that number was 1.006, and that's being raised in 2022 to 1.076. Unfortunately, that because there are more fatalities that they've been seeing in the statistics. For the number of serious injuries, there is good news on this front. The performance measure in 2021 was 3,311.4, and that's getting lowered to 2,998.2, as well as the rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled also improved, or is slated to improve in 2022 from 4.088 to 3.675. And finally, for the number of non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities, that number also is going to hopefully improve from 393.6 as the target in 2021 to 344.5 in 2022. The Surface Transportation Committee last Tuesday on November 2nd saw this resolution and acted to recommend it favorably to the Technical Planning Committee here today. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do we have any questions for Scott? I'll just point out that all these numbers are no more than the target.
Right.
That was an amendment we made a couple years ago overall. Any questions, comments for Scott? I guess you're off the hook, Mr. Weber. We need an action today to make a recommendation to the executive or board or the full commission for the next NERC meeting. Do I have a motion from the floor? Anybody?
You may be on mute, people.
Oh, so moved. George Topple.
Can I second it with a question? This is Mark Waddell.
Sure.
Just to clarify with Scott, I just saw it. Is there a typo in that, Scott, for the page 28 for the targets of 876.9?
That is correct, Mr. Odell. Yes, that it did apparently get carried forward into the this committee's packet. So we'll make sure that in the printing for the commission next Thursday, November 18th, that we correct that. So
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out.
I'll prove it subject to that revision. Second, subject to that revision.
Yeah, I'll restate the motion with that provision.
We have a first and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Floor, can you do the roll call?
Sure. Kevin Brightsky,
Yes.
thank you. George Topple,
Yes.
thank you. Mark Odell,
Yes.
thank you. Beth West,
Yes.
thank you. Robin Barzoni Tillman, Kelly Wenger,
Yes.
thank you. Robin did not answer. Should I still count her though?
Not if she didn't answer.
Okay, so that's a total of 5. That concludes roll call. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this is a recommendation or for next full commission meeting. I think it's next week, the 16th.
I believe it's the 18th.
18th. You're right. I should have looked at my calendar. It'll be Thursday, the 18th. Let's move on to regional plan update.
That would be Thomas Dow. Director.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to scan down.
Yeah.
Mitch. Thank you. This is Thomas Dow, the new transportation director at NERC. And I wanted to take a little time this morning to talk to the committee One of the things that we have to do as an MPO, as you're all aware, is develop a metropolitan transportation plan. Under federal law, we have to update that plan every 4 years because of our non-attainment status with air quality. And the next plan update date is due May 16th of 2023. So that's about 18 months from now. So at this point, we need to be gearing up to launch the process to update the plan. So what I've included in the packet for this morning is a tentative schedule that we are looking at on the staff for producing the plan. And one of the things that we've already done is we have already selected a consulting firm to help us update our regional travel demand model. That contract is going to the Executive Commission next week, I believe, and hopefully will be approved. So we'll be able to start working on the model update process at that point. And as far as the Metropolitan Transportation Plan itself, we've identified 3 major steps that need to be undertaken during the process. And what I'm tentatively calling finding meaning, or evaluating the existing and historic conditions in the region, creating purpose, or considering future scenarios and setting the preferred vision. And then finally, purpose-driven planning, where we make decisions to shape the future of the region. That would include setting the performance measures and performance targets, as Scott had just talked about on the previous agenda item. Would also include committing the financial resources that are available in the region to the transportation project, so we have a fiscally constrained plan. And also obviously identifying those projects that we would like to undertake for the next 30 years within the region. And in an upcoming item on this morning's agenda, we're going to be talking about the new infrastructure bill that was just passed. But one of the things that we're going to need to do is evaluate that and make sure there aren't any additional requirements for metropolitan transportation plans that were not required under the previous round of plans that we did. So we can't really speak to that yet this morning because that legislation was just passed on Saturday. But we will be reviewing it really closely over the next couple of weeks coming forward. So just to remind everybody, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan has to cover all modes of surface transportation. So walking, biking, driving cars and trucks, transit, both rail and bus, for example. But it also has to consider the impacts of transportation when it comes to land use, the environment, and other things like that. And so our last 2 iterations with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, two plans ago, we had the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan, which really took a holistic look at the region from multiple perspectives, not just transportation, but it looked at growth and conservation, transportation, the environment and green infrastructure, human and economic resources, stewardship, and governance. The Northwest Indiana 2050 plan was really much more specific to what is required of MPOs in terms of just focusing on transportation itself. And that's where we came up with the 4 themes of connected, renewed, united, and vibrant. So I think with this iteration of the plan, staff has been having some conversations internally that maybe we need to be a little bit more comprehensive than we were with the last plan iteration. So not just limited to the transportation specific planning requirements set in legislation for MPOs, but maybe take a little broader look as well to make sure that we're incorporating, the environmental considerations and the economic development considerations that our region also undertakes. And to that end, we have, because we have had several staff vacancies, we actually have some planning funds left over that have been unused that we need to spend by June 30th of next year. So what we have talked about doing on staff is hiring a set of consultants to help us with different plan elements. We anticipate that staff will actually lead the process to develop the Metropolitan Transportation Plan this time, but we are also anticipating utilizing some consultants to help us with specific plan elements. And we have currently drafted an RFP to help us with that. We hope to get it published in the next week or two so that we can have some consultants on board by January and approved at the January Executive Commission meeting. And what we're specifically thinking about getting assistance for is on the active transportation plan element. We have done a great job with trail planning in this region. We have, really built a very extensive trail network, and we've done a really good job with regional policy setting for active transportation as well. But we think it may be time to take it to the next step and, look at how we can better accommodate active transportation beyond just the trail network, and looking at the public roads and where we could close some gaps and bridge some barriers for both walkers and bikers, and including the safety of those vulnerable users in our system. The second area where we were thinking that we might benefit is looking at regional transit planning as well, and hiring a consultant to help us kind of consider where the regional gaps in our transit system currently are, and how we might be able to, between now and 2050, close some of those gaps, because we have a lot of the region that's not currently covered by transit. And then the third area that we were thinking we would benefit from having some assistance for is on the land use side as well. We have a lot of interesting things that are going on in the region, from the transit oriented development plans that are being developed by the several communities along the South Shore line and the soon to be constructed West Lake line that NICD operates. And we also have a lot of interesting land use challenges with some of our existing cities losing population and other cities gaining population rapidly. And so we just think that it would be a good opportunity to make a more explicit connection between transportation planning and land use planning. So at this point, that's really all I have to report, but I did want to make sure that the committee knew that we're getting ready to launch the process to update the plan, and you guys will be hearing a lot more from us over the next 18 months on this. So if you have any questions at this point, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
Oh, Kevin, you're muted.
Has Kevin frozen?
Oh, there I go.
No, he was trying to find that mute button. It's tiny. It hides.
It wasn't working so well. Mr. Dow, are there any questions for Mr. Dow? If not, I would ask, do you have a report on the first phase of this, the measuring past successes?
No, we are still working on that, but we will provide a written report to the committee when we have completed it as well. And in fact, there will be a written report to the committee at the end of each of the phases of the process as well. So you'll be able to evaluate that and see much more detailed information.
I'm thinking more of contributions the membership of the committee can make, and to help staff along with this. But I see we're running into the deadline, November 21st or thereabouts, with the first phase. So we're looking forward to seeing your report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, I see Kathy Luther is on. She had a report for us. Kathy, do you hear me?
She might be struggling for her mute button too.
Maybe. It's contagious.
Sorry, I was trying to find the right window. actually, no, there was some confusion about that. I guess I could, for those of you who may not be aware, Joe Axel, our water resources planner, has left NERPC after 10 years and gone to the Lake Michigan Coastal Program, where he will be the coastal resources expert. I think he'll be working on the coastal erosion and water level planning projects they have going. So that's certainly a place I'm happy to have him be. But so we should be posting a position for our natural resource planner shortly. That is all.
Okay. I think everybody was aware Joe was leaving, but I didn't know if you had posted yet for his replacement. And that concludes the EMPC report, correct?
Yes, and EMPC is not meeting for the rest of the year. We had several extra meetings throughout the year in addition to our quarterly. So we are on hiatus until 2022.
And I thank you. And you can take your leave now. I understand.
Sorry.
No problem. We just slid you up in the agenda.
Okay.
Next, we go to
me.
back to Mitch. Yeah, next level trails funding.
I'm going to try to, hopefully you'll see this. You should be able to, do you see the DNR website?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just a brief reminder for those on the phone, we have the current cycle of Next Level Trails active. This is the main page. If you want to know more about it, this is the DNR. Basically, you can just, Google DNR trails and you'll go straight to this page. When you get there, there's this menu to the left. You go to grants, then you'll see Next Level Trails. And so we're in the third, if you take a look down here in the overview of the grant program, we're in the third round. And the third round is offering $35 million, $25 million for regionally significant projects and $10 million for local. That was a nice division of priorities since many trails are not regional in scope. And this offers a community that just simply has a local connection within their own environment to apply. So we've received quite a bit of this money here in Northwest Indiana, our 3 counties during the last 2 cycles. And this money is really as good as it gets when it comes to government funding. It's state money. It's the next best thing to local funding. Not nearly the hoops and ladders that are involved with the federal funds, as many people realize. Many projects actually get built within a year or 2 of being funded. That's how fast this program can operate. And pretty much everything is eligible: engineering, right of way, design, of course, construction. And the best part is if you take a look down here about match requirements, let's see here. Yeah, eligible match, that's where my cursor is. It says monetary, yes, land value, in kind, materials, labor. So they're very flexible in local match, where they're a lot more inflexible with the federal money. So anyway, I know a lot of people on the line here have applied previously. I encourage you to apply again. What I would, again, this is due to DNR. All the the applications are all here for your research and to fill out forms. This is due on December 1st, so you have a few weeks left. It's not a very onerous application process, so hopefully we will see again a lot of submissions from our region. And what I would like to let the TPC know is this is round 3 of 5 actually. Last session of the General Assembly, they appropriated another $60 million with the CARES Act money towards Next Level Trails continuation. So that is a huge win for the state. So when it's all said and done, Next Level Trails will be $150 million infusion, which is way and away the largest amount of investment in trails. So that's what's happening for Next Level Trails. Again, applications are due on December 1st. We do recommend, if you are applying, to please contact me at NERPC. Let me know what you're doing. I'd love to give you some advice. I've worked with the DNR staff quite closely on what they are looking for. And we want to make sure that the best applications possible get submitted from this region. And we also want to support your application, give you a nice little letter of support to put in your application packet and to help out with your application. So I will stop there and ask if there are any questions.
Must have explained it pretty well, Mitch.
I nailed it.
And I think it's great that you mentioned that there's 2 more rounds coming due to the acts of the legislature and the CARES Act. So there's, for the longest time, we thought that it's just going to be round 3, but you have a couple more rounds, a couple more chances, so please plan. And please,
yes, yes, please plan. And DNR staff, you know, the one thing I do tell people when they do contact me is also contact DNR, because I have a pretty good idea what they're looking for, but they're the people that review and rank and approve these. So the earlier you could speak with DNR staff, the better your project will be. Just, it's a matter of, like, you know, what's important in life is showing up. They just want to see that an applicant is active and is engaged with them for the start, instead of just, hey, look, project, and then hoping for the best. They're not very keen on that. So keep that in mind as well. If you have something that you're interested in submitting this go around, I would say, if you haven't yet, please contact the DNR staff, and you can contact them again through this website.
Okay, if there are no more questions for Mitch, let's move on to the next item.
Okay, let me do a little dancing here. And you should see.
There we go.
Capitol Hill. Okay. All right, this will be painless, I promise, I hope. There's a lot going on here, but a lot of stuff happening in the federal government. Those who are C-SPAN aficionados will understand what's going on, but a lot of people are not. So we have just seen the passage, hasn't been signed into law yet, and I'll talk about in a moment, of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, because we love acronyms in the federal vernacular. So I'm going to talk about this because it's the very bill that we exist on and we supply money for projects here at NERC. So let me get over to the screen and some details. You've heard this in the media being called the bipartisan infrastructure deal. Same act. It passed the Senate in August and just passed the House last Friday, I believe. So all ready for President Biden to sign, and he is expected to do so this week. It allows $1.2 trillion in spending over 5 years, and it is by far the most investment ever into infrastructure in this country, by far. I think even in today's dollars, larger than the New Deal. So the big issue here, the big plus of the program for that amount of investment is $550 billion above our traditional spending, which I'll detail momentarily. Here are some comparisons to previous acts that have been passed that, again, help with our funding at NERC. The FAST Act was before IIJA. It only allowed $305 billion for 5 years. MAP 21 was before that. That was 105 for 2 years. And Safety Lou, one of the worst named federal acronym programs ever, $244 billion for 5 years. So you can see right off the bat, it is a tremendous boost in infrastructure spending, as well as other spending as well. It goes beyond just roads and rail, and you'll see that momentarily. But we have a base of about $600 billion that was already going to be appropriated for the reauthorization of the FAST Act. That was also right there. That was a doubling of existing spending, and then we've just tacked on another $550 billion. Okay, so the highlights of the IIJA: significant investments in addressing at-grade rail crossings. There is so much language regarding new programs coming out just to help with this issue. We have a lot of separated grade investment happening. This is going to be a major issue and really a huge plus for our region because of all the railroads that we have crisscrossing around here and the huge need for grade separation that we still have in this region. And you know what communities you are where you have rails impacting your community. So this is a huge deal for you. It does create a new bridge investment program. Of course, we have to use the acronym here, BIP. It does modernize public transit on several key lines of Amtrak, as well as public transit systems throughout our urbanized areas, GPTC being one here, NICD will receive some of these funds. A new investment in Vision Zero projects. Vision Zero is a national program that is taking flight, and because of its inclusion here in IIJA, it's going to become a real important matter of focus in reducing the number of pedestrian and bicycle deaths on roadways, primarily pedestrian deaths. So that's the idea of Vision Zero. There's a slew of programs and strategies that get folded into Vision Zero, and now we're going to be able to really take that nationwide and implement them, much like you saw previously with Complete Streets, Safe Routes to Schools. Okay. There's quite a few new climate initiatives, energy initiatives that are all throughout here. I know Lori's over there just very happy about many of these, especially EV charging, electric vehicle charging stations, quite a few $1 billion afforded to that. So that was a great improvement. We have funding to improve the electrical grid in this country, and that is becoming a real source of issue too, trying to get power, electrical power to parts of this country, because we are starting to transition from obviously fossil fuel to electric vehicles and using electricity more often. We need the transmission lines to get that electricity to the right places. So this goes towards that. Incentives, a spur on clean energy in public buildings and schools. There's quite a bit of language and new funding towards that. And in boosting environmental funding, primarily in this case, wildlife crossings will get a huge boost for new funding regarding transportation purposes, and brownfield restoration will also get a significant amount of money as well. So as you can see, it definitely goes just beyond the traditional transportation focus. So this is a great chart, and digging around last night to try to keep this as simple as possible, if you could somehow keep $1.2 trillion simple. Here we go. This pie is a great representation of it. So over half of that pie is existing or previously past transportation funding. This would be the traditional, like FAST Act or Safety Lou or T21 or whatever. That's the traditional amount of money we would expect every 5 years. That's all that blue, that light blue. And then everything else that is now in the IIJA that comes out of this new spending bill. And you can see the amount of infrastructure focuses up and down the board. It's unprecedented, and it is opening up a world of opportunities for us to invest in these areas to help with clean energy and obviously our environment and better transportation and just improving our transportation overall. We've needed a huge investment. We're still short. I mean, 1.2 trillion is a lot, but we probably needed the original amount. I think they were banding about 5 or 6 trillion at one point, which that would probably do the trick with the amount of infrastructure that is substandard at this time. But again, a great amount of progress, at least towards that. So you can see how it happens here. We got all sorts of different programs that are now receiving all this extra money. And again, just beyond the actual transportation focus traditionally. So with all that going on, with everything happening, and this hasn't even been signed by President Biden yet, so what's next? Well, I'll do my best to prognosticate here. We need guidance. There's all this. So the federal government, the FHWA, the FTA, and all these other, EPA, I mean, this funding bill touches so many different departments, and those departments need to get their hands on it. I mean, it's been passed, the money has been allocated. Now they have to figure out how it gets divvied out, how the application processes work. That needs guidance. So that guidance is going to take some time to formulate, and we'll find out about the division of those funds that come out of that, and the state and the MPOs will be receiving those things over the next year, maybe sooner. We'll see. Again, it is an unprecedented spending bill. It's going to take a little bit of time for these federal organizations to get their mitts around it and figure out how it gets spent throughout the country. So we're going to be waiting on that over the next several months here. And hopefully Charles won't go insane with the amount of programs that we're going to have to be juggling going forward. I think it's a happy problem, and I think you can agree. This is my statement, not NERC's, but I believe we're going to see at least a doubling of the funds that we have at NERC, possibly more, and depending on the program, thanks to this new spending bill. Again, you see it's doubling the amount, if not tripling the amount of traditional spending that we've had. So it's, although it's not nearly as much as some people wanted, it's still a huge infusion and very necessary at this time. And I also wanted to make sure you understood the difference between this, the IIJA, which I've just been discussing, and the Build Back Better Act. These are two different bills, okay? They're people getting confused all the time. That is another 1.75 trillion, and that's a different focus. However, that act would provide some additional funding to programs that we see in the IIJA. These programs are focused on clean energy. Again, we get focused back on trying to improve our grid, trying to work on alternative fuels. And so that gets a nice boost through the Build Back Better Act. And then there are opportunities for infrastructure investments, especially in economically distressed communities. Speaking for myself personally, there's been a lot of chatter and back and forth with the trails advocates such as myself, national trail advocates that are just really excited because there is a program here, if it gets passed, to apply nearly $3 billion nationwide towards infrastructure improvements in distressed communities, including trails, including like transit and including transportation options. Again, all of that is still in the bill formation, so I don't have gross details to share with you, but it seems like we're going to also have a nice jump in funding thanks to that bill. So lots of money coming and lots of work for us to do it here at NERC to make sure that it becomes clear to all of you to how you can take part in all the amount of resources that'll be available. So with that said, I will answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Mitch. I think you did the best anybody could do because there's a lot of constraints here, but and a lot of unknowns at this point.
Yes,
I'm
and
sure.
I know Lori's on the phone too, so when she kicks in, she can probably share her glee as well for what it'll provide for what they do at South Shore Clean Cities.
I am certain the bill will be signed, so that's the good news. I think everybody is. So it's just the details, the devil in the details.
Always.
And staff will be available to help us out with that too. Any other questions for Mitch?
I will say that if you simply, again, Google being as wonderful as it is, you used to have to put the whole website out on, but you simply IIJA, you Google that, you'll get all the details you want. There's all different organizations. We have NARC, National Association of Regional Commissions, and there's other different organization and advocacy groups that have kind of, with their own focus, of course, they've taken the time to really go through this and highlight it. We have some national, like CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post have done some great breakdowns on what's in there. So if you want to get in a bit more detail without going crazy reading the actual bill, I would recommend taking a look at those.
Good suggestion. Let's move on then, if there are no questions for Mitch, and we'll go to the topical committee reports. Head, pedal, and paddle. Mitch.
Head, pedal, and paddle at this time is, pardon me, we are also taking a hiatus till January. Obviously, we are monitoring projects with Next Level Trails very closely, and we are more than available to speak with anybody, as I've already mentioned, looking to apply for that program.
And Land Use Committee. Anybody?
Yes, this is Iman. Good morning, everybody. We had the Land Use Committee November 4th last week. And in this committee, actually, we had to provide two presentations. The first one was about the NERC TOD program that we are putting together here at NERC to support, first of all, the ongoing regional efforts of the RDA and NECTI, and also for all the bus transit agencies. So basically, we would like to enhance all the transit stations and also bring livability around these stations to encourage people to move and walk around the stations. So we have in this program the 13 stations, NICTI stations, the South Shore stations and the Westlake stations will be eligible for funding in these projects. And also we have 5 bus stations. We have along Broadway. So of course we have the Gary metro area, and also we have the IUN and 35th Street station, 11th and Broadway. And also we have the Century Plaza in Minerville, and we have the East Chicago downtown area and the Valparaiso, Kempley Street and Brown Street. So these all the stations that will be eligible under this funding. Next TPC meeting, I will provide a more detailed presentation because it's under review now by the different communities and agencies. Once we receive the feedback from them, I will present it to the TPC and hopefully the next one. The other presentation was about the e-commerce, and in this one, we, as you all know, that like we completed the e-commerce over a year ago, and that basically was to provide a regional scale plan for preparing and repurposing the region and make it ready for e-commerce. This study received the 2021 NARC Achievement Award, which we were so glad to do that. So now we are in phase 2, which is the implementation of the e-commerce in Northwest Indiana. And we are focused in this presentation when we presented on the sub-area plans for the communities. So we have like a sub-high priority area, and we are working with the communities and specifically the city of Gary now in some location and try to fund a project which we have like some limited funding, and it has to be spent by the end of June. So we try to see, you know, what's the best project that we could fund with this limited amount of funding. Also, I will be, I think in the next TPC meeting, we will have more information about the project so I can present it to the committee. And I think that's conclude my report.
Thank you, Iman. Any questions for Iman? Hearing none, we'll move on to Surface Transportation Committee.
Yes, good morning. Once again, the Surface Transportation Committee did meet last Tuesday, November 2nd. And in addition to Resolution 21-19, which this committee acted on earlier, we also saw a presentation about the 2020 Census Assessment. It was very similar to the presentation that this committee received back in September. And we also talked about some of the freight issues in our region and how we're trying to improve relationships with the Port of Indiana, Burns Harbor, with the new port director, Ryan there. And we also talked about some of the issues with the national highway system that the INDOT has brought to our attention, specifically with the city of East Chicago, and a couple segments on Riley and Dickey roads that were designated in 2012, right after the Klein Avenue Bridge had gone out of service, but now the Klein Avenue Bridge is back in service. There's discussions about how to phase the designation for the national highway system back onto Klein Avenue itself. So we talked about some of those issues, and as well as our upcoming safety programs that we're going to be rolling out improvements to. Our next meeting for the Surface Transportation Committee is going to be all the way in February, on February 2nd. So other than that, I don't have any other reports about the Transportation Committee, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions, especially anybody from the committee? If not, we'll go to T-Rock, Transportation Resources Oversight Committee. Do we have a report?
I don't see Charles.
Yeah, I don't see him either. If not, let's move on to reports from planning partners. I know Lori Cagle has something to say. South Shore Clean Cities.
Always. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Thank you. Am I able to share my screen?
Well,
It's okay if I can't. I have a, I can share a,
let me stop
link.
sharing mine. I think we have, who gives the power for sharing? Is that you, Candy, or Floor?
Yes, we can do that if approved.
we don't have to. It's okay. I just shared a link in the chat to the state fact sheet for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for Indiana. So the White House released that back in August. There may have been some slight changes there, but these are documents that I've seen referred to heavily in the press and also referenced in the Indiana Chambers statement. The Indiana Chambers report on the passage of the act was picked up by a lot of different media outlets, and they keep referencing back to this. So this gets a little bit to what may be coming for the different aspects of the of that bill. I should also say, remind folks, we don't lobby, we're nonpartisan, but when it comes to funding for things like EVs and public transit, both of which help reduce emissions, obviously we're interested. What this page says in that link is Indiana would expect to receive about 100 million over the 5 years for the expansion of EV charging networks in the state, and also would be able to apply for 2.5 billion in grant funding dedicated to charging in the bill. And then the state would receive about 680 million over the 5 years for public transportation options. Again, what's that going to look like? How's that going to work? We don't have those details yet, but we're just as excited as others to see how this is all going to play out. I don't think attention gets put nearly enough on how public transportation helps with air quality and helps reduce emissions. When you get out of your own individual vehicle and take public transit instead, that act in and of itself helps to reduce emissions, regardless of how the public transit is fueled or energized. As can be the case in our region. So I think that's really important to note how this can help with our air quality. So as we learn more, we will share more, but we're excited about this as well. When TPC was meeting last month, I was sitting in on a Indiana Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Fund meeting where grant awards were being announced, and there were a lot for the region. So we're excited about this. If you sit on the EMPC committee, you've already heard this, but South Shore Clean Cities and its members on September 14th were awarded 8.9 million, that's an M, in VW grant funds for 106 alt fuel and electric vehicles and pieces of equipment, as well as funding for a statewide electric vehicle campaign. The committee approved 23 successful grant applications, all of which were written by South Shore Clean Cities for its members, as well as for ourselves. These awards are going to help fund, let's see, oops, I've lost my spot, 3 electric and 74 propane school buses, 6 compressed natural gas transit buses, 2 electric refuse trucks, 18 compressed natural gas refuse trucks, 1 electric semi-truck, and 2 electric material handlers, which is fantastic. In the NERC region, the awardees include Scrap Metal Services, the City of Portage, City of Hobart, Homewood Disposal, Bulkmatic, School City of Hammond, Lake Central School Corporation, Michigan City Area Schools, and School Town of Munster. So that's really excited to see these local funds, these funds coming here locally and making a difference. The committee also awarded us, South Shore Clean Cities, a 5-year grant for outreach, education, and marketing for the statewide electric vehicle charging network, which is being funded by the VW program. The DC fast charging network is going to be managed by the Indiana Utility Group through a grant awarded by the committee earlier this year. And we will be working in partnership with them and with the state on outreach, education, and marketing about that program. So we're excited about that. The same day, Congressman Frank Mervan announced 2 grant awards for South Shore Clean Cities under the EPA's Diesel Emission Reduction Act, or DERA, grant program. These are totaling $7.8 million and will be used to assist us in our efforts to reduce diesel emissions throughout the region. Specifically will be used to help promote the use of certain vehicles like clean diesel refuse trucks and electric compressed natural gas and renewable natural gas trucks in and around the EPA Region 5 region. So that's exciting. I've been reporting off and on for some time that we are working with NERC to develop a Northwest Indiana Clean Air website to serve as a clearinghouse for information on all of the clean air programs in the region that are supported by NERC. These are things like our Green Fleet program, Partners for Clean Air, our Region Man campaign. That is still ongoing and hope to make it live by the end of the year. So stay tuned for that. While we're talking about funding, there are 2 opportunities that are available right now I wanted to mention. One is round 3 of grant funding for the Diesel-Wise Indiana with Volkswagen DERA option. That program is distributing awards ranging from $50,000 to $1 million each. Total funding is $1.8 million, not a ton in the grand scheme of things. These are for non-road vehicles and pieces of equipment across the state and are eligible for public and private entities. Those are due December 17th. You can contact us with questions, or if you Google IDEM VW or IDEM Volkswagen, that should pop right up for you. You can always contact me if you need any help with some more information. There is also something called LEAP funding. This is the Local Energy Action Program. Last month, the Energy Secretary Granholm introduced this new pilot initiative, which helps support communities that are experiencing either direct environmental justice impacts, or direct economic impacts from a shift away from historic reliance on fossil fuels. The DOE is going to provide technical assistance services up to $16 million to support 24 to 36 communities to develop their own community-driven clean energy project. These are due on December 17th. You have to register first. So you register and then you get access to apply. So again, this is a Department of Energy LEAP program. You can Google around for that or contact us if you'd like some more information. And I think that's it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. Any questions for Lori or anything in addition? Did we have any other planning partners online that would like to talk? I don't see anybody, but feel free. I'd just like to mention too that I know the staff of EMPC has been working on the technical green infrastructure guidelines for transportation projects. And I thought we might have a report today on that, but it occurred to me that I think Kathy's sitting down and interviewing the proposers, and we'll be making a decision later this month as far as selecting a contractor for the technical green infrastructure guideline for transportation projects that I kind of look forward to. I think it's a great thing for the agency to be involved with. We have upcoming NERC meetings. Finance and Personnel Committee is the 18th, Thursday.
Kevin?
Yes.
We do have other business, 7172 there on the previous page.
Oh, you have your emerging trends that video. Sorry.
Yeah, you're stealing my thunder there, Kevin. Well, not my thunder.
I was trying to save us, but
yeah. Well, as I said previously, we try to show these videos, and we're going to try to do it more often. Videos that staff are able to find and show, and kind of brief videos to give you an understanding of some things that are happening, either emerging trends or issues that we're kind of dealing with right now. One region had a recent luncheon and they were talking about a new emerging industrial corridor, which is dealing with quantum communications. So here's a couple videos that we'll kind of talk about that in a little detail, and they're about a minute or so in length. So let me get that all queued up here. If let me, yeah, I know, I actually messed up. You gotta, yeah, okay, everything's fine. Can you see the video now?
No.
No, you can't. Okay, great. So one more try. Third time. All right, this is it. There you go. All right, here we go.
Northwest Indiana is on the verge of developing a new ecosystem. Fortunately, there are many assets that we have. The obvious one is the lake. Proximity to Chicago, the work we've done in manufacturing, as well as the strong universities that we have here.
Faster rail is on the horizon, building more connectivity between us. This project will really improve South Bend's connectivity to Chicago and really engage Northern Indiana residents to creating higher wage jobs, improve quality of life.
Our way of life in Northwest Indiana is going to change when we put this together. It's going to be normal in the future for us to have people around us who are literally rocket scientists. If we can do the proper job to make this network and this corridor as robust as what it appears to be, there will be really smart people coming here to solve global problems.
Geographic centrality is solely important to what we've done and where we're going in the future because we are in the middle of the country. We want to be ahead of the change and be there with an ecosystem that's going to attract and bring in new industries.
Our counties, our communities, our regions, and our states should be connected and should be connected just to create greater accessibility to the opportunities that exist from this project. Join us October 29th to learn more.
All right, that is video 1. And here is video 2.
Chicago. From Chicago to South Bend, we are now more connected than ever before. Our universities spark imagination. Innovation drives our ambitions.
Now innovation is something that we have to have in mind every day. COVID taught us that.
New railways will bring us closer together, and quantum transfer will connect us at the speed of light.
This 90-mile corridor is one of the largest and most diverse economies in the world. And so it's extremely important to America and to Indiana, the success of this region.
The Greater South Shore leverages our unique assets and elevates our identity to become more than we ever imagined.
We're no longer just the ripple, we're the splash.
We are thriving, connected, and ready to align. We are one region.
And that takes care of that. So these videos, again, are very general and pointing to some of the large technology improvements that are coming to our region. And of course, that will hopefully spur on new economic development, which of course will pose to us some transportation challenges with transit and freight, and of course, highway movement and how we can accommodate transit as well as bike and ped in the middle of all that. So just helping our region to get a competitive advantage and of course to thrive into the future. So hope that was enjoyable.
Any comments or questions for Mitch? Anybody at One Region conference? If not, let's go to staff announcements.
And I also to remind my staff, you might be on mute.
Well, apparently we don't have any announcements, so.
We've got it all out.
We did, good work. I just announced the upcoming NERC meetings for the second time. Finance and Personnel is November 18th, 2021 at 8 o'clock. NERC full commission meeting will be November 18th at 9 o'clock. Transportation Resources Oversight Committee for Lake and Porter counties will be November 23rd at 9 a.m. And T-Rock for LaPorte will be November 23rd at 1 o'clock p.m. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 at 10 o'clock. Hard to say 2022.
Get used to it. A lot of twos.
Well, I cringe. 222. Yeah. Seems like we lost a year.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Anything else for the greater good? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll
Mr.
second.
Odell.
Mark Odell makes the motion. George Topple seconds.
Second. Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.